All right, welcome to the deep dive. You sent us a really interesting source to get into. It's an article by Wes Roth titled OpenAI's GPT-4o3 Pro just changed everything.
That's the one. Yeah, and our job today really is to unpack this piece. We want to figure out why Roth is making such a big claim about this new model, GPT-4o3 Pro. We'll probably just call it O3 Pro.
Makes sense.
Because the core idea, it isn't just saying, oh, it's a bit better. The article argues it forces us, me, everyone, to completely rethink how we even approach using AI.
Exactly. It sounds like it's shifting the whole game. Less about just chatting with a tool, more about figuring out how to work with a totally different kind of intelligence, maybe?
Yeah.
Adapting how we think.
Precisely. Adapting our approach to really unlock what this thing can apparently do.
So, okay, let's jump right in, this fundamental shift. The article kicks off by saying O3 Pro, well, it's not really built to be used like your standard chatbot, right?
That's the starting block. Yeah. Think less conversational, buddy, more. The author uses terms like a report generator or even a full-on reasoning engine.
Okay.
It seems geared towards, analyzing stuff, structuring information, but over longer, more involved processes, not just quick back and forth.
And tied into this, there's that big real-world thing the article mentions, the standard non-pro GPT-4o3. Its price dropped massively.
Yeah.
Like 80%.
Huge. Yeah. While we're focusing on the Pro here, that price drop for the regular one, well, that suddenly makes pretty powerful AI much more available to a lot more people. It democratizes it, basically.
Definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, so if it's this reasoning engine, how does it actually tackle, really complex problems, the kind that AI often struggles with? The article is a pretty stark example.
Oh, yeah. The Tower of Hanoi puzzle, the 10-disc version.
Right.
Which is famously tricky. It needs a perfect sequence of moves. What is it? 1,023 moves, no mistakes allowed.
And previous models
couldn't do it. According to the article, they basically failed 0% accuracy on this specific hard version. They'd just get lost.
Okay, so what about O3 Pro?
This is where it gets kind of wild. It solved it perfectly.
Perfectly. All 1,023 moves.
Every single one. Took 19 minutes, the article says, which, sounds slow if you're thinking chatbot response, but for a complex planning task like this, identifying every single move, every peg position correctly.
19 minutes to nail something that complex perfectly. Wow, so the author's take on why it can do this.
Yeah.
It's not just raw intelligence boost, maybe.
That seems to be the idea. The conclusion drawn is that older models probably weren't failing because they couldn't reason fundamentally, but maybe because of context window limits.
Like their working memory, right? They just couldn't hold on to the state for that many steps.
Exactly. They lost track. O3 Pro, given the time and presumably a large enough context window, seems able to handle that sustained, complex tracking.
Okay, that makes sense. Persistence,
yeah,
state management over time. But then the article goes somewhere, even while stranger, applying knowledge from one area to a totally different one, like building systems.
Yeah, this experiment is, well, it's pretty mind-bending. The author uploaded a really dense AI research paper. It's called Agents of Change.
Okay.
And it was about building AI agents to play the board game Settlers of Catan.
Right, I know Catan. So the challenge for O3 Pro was?
Basically, take the ideas, the framework from this paper about Catan and figure out how to apply it to the game Diplomacy.
Diplomacy? Whoa, okay, that's a completely different beast. Much more about negotiation, deception, very different from Catan's resource management. They even mentioned a specific project, Every Ink's AI diplomacy thing.
Exactly, a huge conceptual leap. And the result. According to Roth, in just 13 minutes, O3 Pro came back with a full architectural translation. Like, here's how you could adapt this Catan agent ideas for diplomacy.
13 minutes. That's fast for that kind of conceptual work. But it didn't stop there, did it?
Nope. Then, in another, 15 minutes? It actually scaffolded the entire code base.
It wrote the code structure.
Pretty much. Laid out the files, structured the directories, put in placeholders for API keys, added comments explaining what each file was supposed to do, even started setting up the basic agent components.
That is seriously impressive. It's not just understanding the paper. It's taking abstract concepts, translating them across domains, and then architecting and starting to build a complex software system based on it, autonomously.
Right. If you've ever tried to do that kind of translation yourself or just set up a complex project, yeah, it's a big deal.
So this really leans into the author's next big point then, that O3 Pro isn't just a better model. The article keeps calling it a system.
Exactly, a system.
What does that actually mean, though, like practically?
It means it's not just the core language processing part doing all the work. It's apparently able to pull in and use a whole suite of other tools automatically. Things like file analysis, understanding visual input, having some kind of memory of past interactions, running Python code itself, even browsing the web.
Wow, okay, so it orchestrates these tools behind the scenes. You don't have to tell it, now run some code, or now look at this file.
That seems to be the implication. It's
Right.
presented as more of a hybrid AI platform. It figures out which tool it needs for the task and uses it. Autonomous tooling, task orchestration, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And the article even throws in this intriguing little hint about stuff happening internally that we don't see, like hidden commentary channels, suggesting there's maybe some complex internal dialogue or process coordinating all this.
Fascinating. Okay, so moving away from the pure tech feats, what about real-world stuff? The author actually used it on, like, actual business data.
Yeah, they fed it real organizational stuff, meeting notes, strategy docs, company goals.
Yeah.
Messy, real-world information.
And what did it do with that? Just summarize it.
No, much more. It apparently generated actual business strategies.
Mhm.
And not just vague ideas, but strategies with specific, measurable metrics. It prioritized actions. It even suggested specific things the company should cut.
Whoa, suggesting what to cut. That requires some serious evaluation.
Exactly. The author calls it a deep evaluative capacity, taking that messy input and producing credible, actionable plans with measurable results. That's something, a lot of previous LLMs really struggled with. They could talk about strategy, but actually generating a prioritized action plan, including cuts. That's different.
Right. And this capability, it makes you wonder about how we even measure these things. The article brings up benchmarks, like comparing it to Gemini 2.5.
Yeah, and the argument is those standard tests might be missing the point with O3 Pro.
How so?
Well, many benchmarks test things in isolation, right? Factual recall, speed on simple tasks, maybe writing a short bit of text. But if O3 Pro's real strength is, as the article suggests, its contextual intelligence understanding and operating within really complex, nuanced situations with lots of data.
Then those simpler tests just won't show that. They're measuring the wrong thing, almost.
Kind of, or at least they're not measuring the whole thing. The deep integration and complex problem-solving ability might just fly under the radar of traditional benchmarks.
Okay, so the big picture here. The main takeaway from Roth's article seems to be we're kind of past the point where the most interesting thing in AI does is, I don't know, write a poem or answer a trivia question.
Absolutely. The emphasis is that models like O3 Pro, or maybe systems like O3 Pro, are built for, well, the author uses the term hairy problems.
Hairy problems. Okay, I like that. What constitutes hairy in this context?
Think deep, messy, complex. Problems that are highly structured, maybe span multiple different fields or domains, need you to process a ton of information, maybe over a long time. The really difficult challenges.
The kind of stuff that requires serious thinking and planning.
Exactly. So the question we should be asking, based on this article, it really shifts, doesn't it? It's not just what cool text can this thing generate. It's more like what complex systems can it actually build, critique, and maybe even help evolve almost on its own. And, when you start seeing capabilities described like this, it naturally brings up some deeper thoughts. The author definitely touches on this towards the end.
Yeah, you get a sense reading it, maybe a bit of awe, maybe even slightly unnerving, the potential autonomy described.
There's that sense, yeah. And the analogy used is great. Asking Einstein to solve 2 + 2. You wouldn't get Einstein's genius from that, would you? Similarly, the argument is you need to give O3 Pro genuinely complex, meaningful problems to even see what it's capable of. It kind of flips it.
Yeah.
Maybe the bottleneck now is us formulating challenges that are hard enough.
That's a really interesting thought, and it blurs that line, doesn't it? The line between, say, an AI agent doing a task and something that feels more like an autonomous coworker.
It really does start to blur when it can analyze complex documents, propose strategy, architect code, manage its own tools. Yeah, coworker starts to feel less like sci-fi. And the article hints there's more to come, right? They mention wanting to stress test its ability to generalize across really different domains.
Yeah, and there was that little tease at the end about an interview with a hacker. Plenty. Someone who's apparently jailbroken O3 Pro already.
Right. Which just shows, humans are already poking and prodding, trying to figure out the real limits, the boundaries, maybe the vulnerabilities. It's an ongoing interaction.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up then. So this article by Wes Roth, It paints a picture of GPT-4o3 Pro not just as, the next incremental step, but as a potentially revolutionary AI system.
Yeah, a system. That seems key.
We saw examples like solving that incredibly complex Tower of Hanoi puzzle perfectly,
Hmm.
synthesizing knowledge from a research paper to actually architect and start building a system for a totally different game.
And generating really specific, actionable business strategies, including what to cut from messy, real-world data.
Right. And the core argument is really that this signals a major shift, a paradigm shift, maybe, and how we need to think about working with AI tools.
It definitely frames it that way, built for depth, for complexity, for handling these hairy problems with a degree of autonomy we haven't really seen before.
So think about all that. Given what this article suggests O3 Pro can do, tackling those deep, multi-domain, hairy problems, even helping build complex structures from just concepts, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of hairy problem in your world, your work, your research, just something you're passionate about, what challenge might suddenly look, well, addressable with a tool that has this kind of claimed contextual intelligence and system building power?
Yeah, what's that really tough nut that maybe, just maybe, something like this could help crack? That's the big question to chew on, I think.